Welcome to Game Over the Video Podcast. I'm Russ, and that's Zach.
Hello.
Hello, how goes it?
It goes. Z, has anything interesting happened in your life since the last time we talked?
um, uh, Shit, when was the last time we talked?
It was before
I
both
feel
of us
like both
ended
of
our
our lives
20-year
have become
careers. That's
interesting. Yeah. Both of us have been like freed up a little bit on
yeah.
our either jobs or long-term contracts that we've had. So
A wise man once said the long-term contract that you signed says you would be making these movies to the end of time. Uh,
Yep.
Jokes aside, we're going to talk a little bit about social media today, which is actually kind of a change of pace, but it's something that obviously is big when you're making a podcast that needs to actually reach an audience.
Yeah.
One of the big things that has come out in the last couple of days, or not days, weeks, I guess, is that Bluesky, because they are much less algorithm driven than most of the other like microblogging sites, do a lot less to throttle your links and to throttle your external stuff. Hank Green, I think, did a YouTube video today or yesterday where he talked about how he had done like an experiment where he did a bunch of tweets, and it was like he tweeted and put stuff on Threads and put stuff on Bluesky, and it was like checking engagement, checking click throughs, and it was like, no, you can see very clearly the way that the big corporate sites are throttling external links because like they don't want you to leave the site.
Yeah.
And like he'll make the exact same tweet 20 minutes apart, and the second one that doesn't have a link will do 300%, 500%, 800% better.
Yeah.
And so like to me like that's interesting, but also like almost not germane because like to me social media, like I use it to promote stuff, but I don't, that's not its primary. Like I want to be able to go on and just exist in a space and interact with people who are my personal and professional friends.
Yeah.
And so a couple of weeks ago I'd written a blog post on my Substack about the fact that like there had been this mass migration of about 15 million people to Bluesky.
Mm-hmm.
And all these like mainstream media outlets were saying like it's a liberal echo chamber.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I don't know, man. I mean, maybe, but also like, it's not my job to sit there and listen to people berate me.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, as a political journalist, who it is my job to some extent to have people.
That's true.
berate
Yeah.
me. I don't need it on Twitter. It doesn't help me in any way, shape, or form. It doesn't tell me about anything. I will go to, as a person who covers the far right, I will go to their places and listen to them quietly and kind of not, obviously not get involved. But I don't need them coming at me continually, giving me death threats or telling me that whatever I'm now Elon Musk says that anybody basically who left Twitter to go to Bluesky is a pedophile, which is, I love just like the way we're able to throw out libelous content on a continual fucking basis, the way that it is. But yeah, sure, okay. It's wild that Politico has an article. Democrats faced existential crisis on X. Conversations with a dozen insiders point to a party that is unsure about whether to leave or engage with the increasingly MAGA platform. And it's just, I mean, there's no benefit. There's no benefit to having this whatsoever. If you're a politician, obviously that's a different conversation. Like, should AOC stay on, Ocasio-Cortez, the very progressive lefty congresswoman, should she stay on a platform that she continually gets, sexual harassment, death threats, and everything like that? Or should she go to Bluesky, where it's going to be kind of, again, talking to people who are a little bit more allied with her? I mean, I don't know. Like, does Trump come over to Bluesky? Like, I mean, it's always wild that it's like Democrats in disarray. but never Republicans rioting
Yeah.
the Capitol. So yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, one of the things that I talked about is that because again, I wrote this blog that did reasonably well, and like one of the things that I talked about is the fact that yes, broadly speaking, in terms of political news, Fox is king. In terms of like political influencers, the right has all
Yeah.
these like megastars.
Yeah.
But like most of the money on social media is not made around politics. Most of the money on social media is made around entertainers, sports teams, and things that like either do not embrace politics or are not MAGA.
Yeah.
And so you have this thing where like Springsteen and Taylor Swift and Beyonce and whoever else doesn't want to be on fucking Twitter because like all their like it's a nonstop harassment fest.
Yeah.
And brands don't want to advertise on Twitter because it's so hyper partisan.
Yeah. Well, it's not just hyperpartisan. It's just that your ad could be right below or above a post that says, "Hey, Hitler did some okay things as well."
Yeah.
And
yeah.
it's just like, and we have thousands of examples of it. I could go on Twitter right now and maybe do a couple refreshes, and I will find one of those examples where some,
Yeah.
whatever the brand is or whatever. Usually now it's not even brand. It's kind of like grifty,
Yeah.
things that
yeah.
you used to get, like, oh, you're staying up at 2 o'clock in the morning watching network news and they're selling the mop that is, so special.
But don't worry, they're
yeah.
suing all the people who don't advertise there anymore.
Because that's a thing where it's just like active. You need to be free speech now. First Amendment for corporations is not just that you allow them to talk; it's you must talk to them, which is such an insane idea. Like, I mean, but if you have $200 billion, you can just do fucking lawsuits all you want.
Yeah.
And also you can seemingly remember, like, this all started, like, one of the kind of origin stories of Elon Musk becoming this kind of like weirdo right-winger fascist, whatever
Right.
the fuck thing he is that he said, remember the kids that got caught in the cave in Thailand, I believe?
Oh
And
shit!
there was a I forget whether it was American or European diver who was very expert at what he does, very expertise, and basically he talked some shit about Elon Musk's sub that he was going to send there, and then Elon Musk called him a pedophile on social media or something. I forget what, this has been a while.
Yep. No, you're
And
right. Yeah.
he sued in response and lost that lawsuit somehow, which I still don't understand how you lose that lawsuit, because he has no evidence of that. It is definitely a derogatory and career changing thing. I mean, obviously, I think James Gunn can say that if people start accusing you of being, a pedophile kind of in that world or whatever, whatever that is, that you lose a fucking multi-million-dollar contracts with the Disney Corporation. Obviously, you end up getting them back because, thankfully, like, go on Disney, that they were like, this guy makes too much money for us to be this.
It's not even honestly. It's not even. It was more about Saldana and Bautista, and I mean, credit where credit's due. Even Pratt, like. I give that cast a lot of credit, because basically what happened was that Disney was like, nope, we're not doing this. We're not working with this guy, but we're still going to make Guardians 3. Yeah. And then from what I can tell, basically everyone in the cast was like, not with me or not.
Yeah. I mean, it is a thankful thing that, like, the three of them were all already at that point in the career by 3 that Saldana could be like, I'm good. I'm going to go make whatever number of shows.
Avatar 16.
Yeah. I'm set for my career. Like, I don't have to do anything other than the one film a year with James Cameron. I'm good. And then, Pratt could be like, I'm going to do anything else, literally. And Batista, is
it's
like,
to me. Yeah.
It's like, doesn't matter, So he also he actually, the one person who I think is like genuinely, he has continually showed that he is a fucking badass motherfucker, good person, with his removing tattoos and just, doing that, the Biden ad, which I thought was a little, I didn't like anyway, but little kind of reverse sexist kind of ad of, like, calling him a bitch and things like that. But, but give him credit where, like, not a lot of, famous people kind of stood up against fascism, and that's one thing that he
Yeah.
fucking does. Which in the WWE world, where our next Secretary of Education is gonna be the what co-CEO or whatever of or the wife of the CEO of
The
WWE Wrestling.
pedophile enabler.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, fun times. Yeah, that's gonna be great.
Yeah.
My sister's boss and your wife's boss is going to now.
Yeah.
Yeah, fun times.
Uh,
Anyway,
but in any event, like, God, where were we? Like an hour ago.
yeah, sorry. Zach went up on a political rant, and
No, we
we
started on James Gunn.
oh no, we did not start on James Gunn. We were back on it, whatever.
Yeah, Gunn was
We
the
talked about
genesis point of the rant.
pedophile. Anyway, but it's it is it has been shit. Hold on, I'm just doing a of where we
Yeah.
figure out where the fuck we were. We were just talking about like people not we were talking about kind of like celebrity brands and stuff like that not wanting to go
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
to yeah. So if you
Yeah, because it started with you talking about how Musk had accused the divers of being
yeah, that's
pedophiles.
where the tangent kind of went off on
Yeah, yeah,
everything. So yeah.
yeah. Uh, it's interesting because like Twitter was never a super personal, like it was never a small brand.
Yeah.
Even when it was run by a handful of people, it was always like a mega brand
Yeah.
because of VC money. And then like Musk has come in and he's made it like his personal soapbox.
Hmm.
And so everything else that exists in that space but is not Twitter, it's almost defined by its opposition to Musk.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
Sometimes that's fair, sometimes that's not. I think with Bluesky it's more fair because it's like it does seem like it's actively kind of cultivating a progressive base. But again, like as I pointed out in that story originally,
Hmm.
like a liberal base, not progressive necessarily, but like liberals are where most of the money in social media comes from because they're the ones who run like entertainment and sports and all these kind of spaces where it's like, okay, well, it's not okay to say the N word, even if we aren't going to do anything about it.
Yeah. I
You
mean,
know?
I mean, because unfortunately, in America in 2024, that's how we define liberal. Is they're like we're not comfortable with saying the N word.
Yeah,
That is a liberal.
yeah.
That is a liberal. Like, and so I mean, with Bluesky, it was the way that I because obviously it was originally invite only,
Right, yeah, yeah.
and like the way that I got on was that Alex Winter, they gave Alex Winter the documentary, and Bill and Ted star.
Mm,
They gave him, I guess, a bunch of invites, like a ton of invites, and basically I heard that he was giving out invites, and I reached out to him because obviously I knew him from interviewing him about his documentary.
right,
The fact, excellent film, definitely recommend seeing it. And he got me an invite, and he was basically kind of inviting people that he wanted, and it seemed that they were him and a bunch of other people were kind of like curating who the first wave of people were into this new
right,
brand, which is, I mean, hey, it's the same thing that you would do if you were doing a right wing or a left wing or whatever. If you want to
right,
build, you're going to bring in the people that create content, the people that start conversations, the people that have trending,
right,
that you don't want to have a bunch of like that's why True Social never really caught on, is you have a bunch of like right wingers that don't have any following, a bunch of whatever that no one else wants to talk to. You don't get that
right,
thing. That's Parlor. Parlor had that really big problem where it's like, yeah, you had Proud Boys that had, that garnered whatever, but garnered some, interaction. But other than that,
right,
it was basically a bunch of people who were spouting off racist and right wing shit, and no one
right.
else was interacting with them other than saying you're not right wing or racist enough,
Yeah,
and or I agree with you, Trump 2024 or whatever, and that was it. So you do want to start building a brand that is going to have, again, like we also like as liberals in general, we're like, I'm sorry, we're brand wise, if you're Target, if you're Walmart, if you're whoever, you are going after those people. So if you're going to do advertising, if you're going to sell the information to people like all of these sites do, that
Right.
remember, if you don't pay for something, you are the product, you are the thing
Right.
that's being sold. And so like all of these free sites exist, they want to curate a bunch of people that they can sell to advertisers. And if it's a bunch of crazy right wingers who, if you dare to have a black person in one of your ads, they're going to boycott you. They're not interested in selling ads on Twitter, on Parler, on True Social, because
Right.
have to sell to black people too. We have to sell to, Asian people. We have to sell to, sell to different worlds, and because the rest of the world exists, and it's not just pandering DEI kind of horse shit that like the right kind of wants
Right.
to claim that every single time they see a Target ad that has a queer person in it, they lose their shit. And it's like, well, I'm sorry, LGBT crowd is a huge market. It is a
Right.
large number of people. They buy a lot of things. And at the same time, you're straight white right winger that's, whatever, doesn't buy a lot of shit at Target. Like they just don't. So like they're going after their market. That's why, yeah. Anyway, that's why like that's the way that kind of Bluesky got started is like pulling in all these
Right.
people that are going to create content and like create traffic for their site. So yeah.
Right. And the big thing over the last little bit is the idea of like we're not going to throttle your links. We're going to allow you to like
Yeah.
promote your other shit outside of the and like to me it's interesting because like it's almost counterintuitive that like when you are Twitter and you're throttling external links,
Yeah.
it's like the idea is you're keeping people on site,
Yeah.
but also you're holding people hostage.
Yeah.
And to me, it's like, no, obviously, I would rather be on a place where I can see the shit I want to see, even
Yeah.
if it takes me away from the site for 5 minutes and then I come back.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, I mean, it's the insanity of things like I think even before Musk, they got rid of the YouTube embed, so you could watch YouTube um, within Twitter. And so like they
I,
started doing, you have to upload to your site. And then at the same time, they were starting to sell that information to, or like, and then once Musk came along, the reason
yeah,
I left, I mean, I'm still on Twitter. I still occasionally post links. I do whatever just to
right,
kind of keep my account alive because I don't want to give it up and have somebody else take it over. Also, I have a
right,
bunch
yeah,
of historical, journalistic links. Like one of my
yeah,
reports was cited by the J6 Commission. So like if that link goes away, then you know,
yeah,
and so but I won't upload any more photos or video content or anything like that, or anything really kind of original, because it all feeds now, ever since was it November 15th, it all feeds without any decision. You can't do anything anyways. It feeds into Grok, the AI, which I don't
right,
want to give over my copyright over to fucking Elon Musk and AI. And so
yeah,
that was one of the big reasons that I know a lot of photographers and a lot of original content creators were like, well, I can't do this. I can't turn over. Yes, there are scrapers, even on Bluesky, that scrape your
right,
content
obviously,
and
yeah,
whatever, but like I'm not handing my copyright over to the person that's scraping this website. That's not
yeah,
part of the contract deal. And that wasn't what it was with Bluesky, or wasn't with Twitter before, even if they were doing it supposedly or not. And
right,
so that was one of the big reasons that like you see this big exodus of people that create original content, which is like that's how these sites exist. Could you imagine? I mean, if TikTok was like, we're going to take all your content and sell it to, we're going to have a personal in-house AI program, it would go away really quickly because they
oh
realize that
yeah,
you're handing over your copyright original videos, which is it's suicide for something that is not making Elon any money or anyone really
right,
gives too much of a shit about, other than a handful of right wingers who want to make like images of AOC riding a horse carrying a flag, whatever. I don't
fucking
know
Pepe,
what, but
yeah,
like, or Donald Trump,
yeah, yeah,
with six pack abs. And so it's just like it's perplexing. I mean, on the other, like one thing that we all need to accept that is that Elon Musk has no interest in actually making Twitter a profitable space. He didn't buy it for that.
Yeah.
Otherwise, he wouldn't be, aggressively running off the people that do the largest amount of like actual non-bot activity on the site.
Right.
So,
And we talked about like, to me, I think that like it's really important to know that like Twitter X it exists now as a propaganda arm, kind of exclusively. Because again, like to me, I see it, and it's like they don't want anything except for uh, opinion and news, and like they really don't seem to support anybody who's trying to do anything creative, because like everything that is that goes off the site immediately gets throttled, and you can't like.
I mean, it's interesting. A person who I follow, the editor over at Mississippi. God damn it! What's the name of the site? There's this Yahoo News story. Journalists flock to Bluesky as X becomes increasingly toxic.
Was it Missouri?
It was Mississippi.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know why they don't. Mississippi Free Press. Great journalism outfit working in Mississippi. They do a lot of. They're like I think they're a nonprofit. Donate to them if you find them. I'll put a link in the description, everything like that. They do a lot of great journalism, kind of ProPublica kind of level stuff in Mississippi. Where there's not a lot of journalism, and obviously they have a lot of. They have to put links, otherwise that's the way the journalism. It can't exist. You can't exist as a journalist just on Twitter unless you're a right winger, unless you're like. Or there's a small number of like very independent people that can kind of do that by just posting whatever.
Basically, you need some political action committee to be paying for your work.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you need to actually have people go interact with the ads.
Yeah. Yeah. Or just even go to your Patreon, go to your Substack or whatever. Which was another decision that Elon made early on of like basically blacklisting Substack, which as you say in your piece. But I'll just read a little bit.
Again, that goes back to the thing, the Hank Green thing, where it's like he tried a bunch of stuff, and it's like one of the things that gets you blacklisted is if you just include the word Bluesky in the tweet.
Yeah. I mean, this is from the article, which I love the fact that on Yahoo News there's a generate key takeaways. There's an AI bullshit right above it that gets information wrong right away and doesn't include important vital data. When Ashton Pittman, great guy, an award-winning news editor and reporter, first joined the app Bluesky, he said he was the only Mississippi journalist he knew to be using it. Until about 5 weeks ago, he said that was the case. But now Pittman said there's at least 15 other Mississippi journalists on Bluesky as it becomes a preferred platform. Reporters, writers, activists, and other groups who have become increasingly alienated by X, aka Twitter. Pittman's outlet, Mississippi Free Press, already has more followers on Bluesky, 28,500, than it ever did on Twitter, 22,000. The platform previously known as Twitter, as Pittman said, the engagement is booming. This is a quote from him, we have posts that are exactly the same on Twitter and on Bluesky, and with identical posts, Bluesky is getting 20 times the engagement or more than Twitter, Pittman said. Seeing a social media platform that doesn't throttle links really makes it clear how bad we were being limited, which is true. I've not gotten, if I say an original thing just on Twitter or whatever, and like I had, because of the video length, I had been previously paying for Twitter, to my shame. And but it was like 2-minute videos and engagement or whatever, and I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm promoting a film, and I'm also trying to get posts about right-wing fascism seen by anybody. I wasn't getting shit. Like I used to occasionally have, like, I would say once or twice a week I'd have something that go relatively viral, a couple hundred retweets, whether it be a post of an article or whether it be an opinion, whatever, some horseshit I made up at 2:00 in the morning when I had a couple too many. And I wasn't getting any of that anymore whatsoever, especially on the links, like barely one or two retweets or a couple likes or whatever on links. And obviously, as a journalist, that's 99% of what I want to post on any social media site
Right.
is
Yeah.
good journalism, critiques of bad journalism, my journalism. And since I don't want to post anything on Twitter that is original content because they are now scraping it for their own personal AI and their own profit, even as I pay $8 a month for the goddamn site,
Mm.
that I was not knocked out of that. I still was not only I was a double profit hit for them because they were
Right.
scraping my photos, my videos, everything like that for their AI, and I was paying at the same time, and I was writing things or whatever for them. And I was still somehow not eligible for any of the profit, any of the whatever things that they push, but whatever. Um,
Mm.
and so that's 100% why I am done,
Right.
other than like I'll post links to just again keep things moving on the thing. So I also don't, which I do not recommend people leave Twitter and cancel their account, because what will happen is if you had an account that had any amount of traffic or anything like that, people will take it over.
Mm-hmm.
Once it was, Elon Musk will give it to somebody if it's, especially if it's a bigger one. So keep your accounts alive to some thing, to some level, like occasionally post a comment or post links to Bluesky or do whatever, just so it's new content, so that they don't take your account. It's what I'm going to keep doing at least until whatever happens. I don't know what that is. But I'm already I have 15,000 after being on Twitter since 2006, I think. I had 15,000 followers roughly on Twitter. I have 14,300 on Blue Sky, and my God, every other comment that I make now, it's actually getting an reaction because the people that follow me on this site are actual human beings. They're not bots, and they're not just like rage trolls that like are following, because I have a lot. Obviously, I cover the far right. I have a lot of
Right.
people that follow me on Twitter that are just basically people that do whatever. I usually block them because I don't have any need for that. I don't care about traffic enough to deal
Mm-hmm.
with somebody continually criticizing my opinion or whatever. And I'm like, I don't care about free speech that much in that way.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, because that's not my definition of free speech. So,
The framing is liberals can't exist on X, and so they're going to the safe space of Blue Sky. For those of us, which like includes me, I don't. Yeah, I do some political stuff. I don't work in politics every day. For those of us who just want to exist on the internet without being harassed,
yeah.
is there any real argument for not just blocking every motherfucker on the like?
I mean, I just don't understand. I mean, like, because I mean, like, I still always joke that like the little bit of a time that I worked for an entertainment site,
Yeah, yeah.
not to be named, that like the level of like harassment that I got for like my articles was more than
Oh, I know,
more than I
right?
got as a political journalist. That's changed a little bit. I've certainly got more since I've gotten more, in depth and critical on things. But
Yeah, yeah.
the idea that like, I mean, one thing I always joke is that like just existing like as a straight white male who covers the far right, whose
Mm-hmm.
work has very specifically been identified and used in
Right,
prosecutions of Nazis, I get less harassment than any random woman that I know on social media. Um,
right.
that doesn't work in that are just they just exist on Twitter, specifically
Mm-hmm.
on Twitter. I don't understand why anyone would say on a site that does that and doesn't have any, because they've gotten rid of all of the Twitter has gotten rid of all of the kind of, you used to be able to, I used to, because I was a verified
Mm-hmm.
journalist on the site, because I had a decent, amount of whatever, and I
Right,
um transaction, basically like people commented on my stuff or whatever. If I found a Nazi on the site, I was able to usually get them booted from the site pretty quickly,
right.
by just doing the like referral thing. I have never seen, I don't get reports back. I do still, if there's a straight up Nazi
Yeah,
on the site, I still do the whole, you know uh basically
right,
recommend to send it to Twitter. I don't see any of that. And so like, if
right,
you're just okay with, because I mean, like, there's one thing about bad opinions, and there's a whole different thing
right,
about like literal calls for a second Holocaust of
right.
Jews on the site. And Hitler was a great guy, there is a distinct difference, I think, between that. That is about
Yeah.
as much as a fire in a crowded theater as I can possibly think of, and the fact that they've continually reallow like Richard Spencer and Nick Fuentes, people who are
Right.
distinct, like if not Nazis, but like distinct about as much as like right wing fascists as you possibly can.
Right.
The fact that they've just allowed it, I don't understand why would you possibly, if you're, if you were Jewish, I don't understand why you'd exist on this site. If you were a woman, I don't understand why you'd exist on this site. And so like the idea that like, I mean, could you imagine if you had a sandwich shop and you walked in and you got a pizza shop, because I'm going to go with the movie reference. You got a pizza shop and you don't just not have any white people up on the wall.
Right.
You don't just have any brothers on the wall. You got Hitler, you got Richard Spencer, you got Nick Fuentes, and you got all those people up on the wall. Those are the people that are promoted, and those are the people that are pushed and promoted.
Right.
And
Yeah.
you dare to ask, like, why don't you have Angela Davis on the foot? Why don't you have Noam Chomsky? Why don't you have Barack Obama, former president, up on the wall?
Yeah. The
And
most followed person on the
yeah,
platform. Yeah.
and what the response is your hate. Basically, you get nothing but death threats and nothing on onslaughts. And then why would you stay there? Why would you go to that pizza shop? Why would you do that? Why wouldn't you throw a metaphorical garbage can through that front window? If anybody.
I mean, it's the only place where I can get pineapple. It's fine. It's
I mean, if Danny Aiello is the pizza shop guy, that's a different conversation. But 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 yeah, it's like, you just got to do the right thing and go to and go to Blue Sky. Oh, that was some digging. But anyway, um but yeah, I mean, like, was looking at this Politico article, which again is the one that's the Democrats face existential crisis on X.
yeah. Yeah.
Not
Yeah.
that the fascists are like, why are the fascists? Why is Elon Musk, Donald
Right.
Trump's
Exactly.
personal
Yeah.
advisor, basically allowing fascists and Nazis to be on the site? This is
Right.
what the article is that, like, oh my God, in just a few weeks since the election, that is, like, people left the platform, like such as CNN anchor Don Lemon, who had a contract with Musk, and Musk said "fuck you" to the
Yeah.
contract when he
Yeah.
gave a tough interview. So that's why he left, because he got fucked over by Musk.
Right.
Basketball star LeBron James, who is a well-known, Stephen King, Jamie Lee Curtis, and MSNBC's Nicole Wallace, who, she can go fuck herself, but that's a different story. About like former being a Republican and giving us. Wait, is Nicole Wallace? I'm trying to remember if she's the one that gave us Sarah Palin, or whether she's the one that used to work at right-wing hedge funds. That is now suddenly a Democrat or something, and a liberal.
I think
Um,
it's the latter, but I'm not sure.
but it is just fascinating to me that, like, because there has been a dozen of these articles, or
Right.
op-eds and things like, I wouldn't call them articles, op-eds, of being like, oh well, Democrats are facing, because at the same time we're having this, not to bring this again, drag this into political more, but
Right.
like, I'm sorry, this entire conversation is a political conversation. Like,
Right. Right.
this is beyond just, obviously there's a lot of entertainment and in sports and stuff like that. People just like, I just want to enjoy sports. Like, I've seen a lot
Right.
of people on my feed where I'm like, I used to, on Twitter, my feed, I had my feed to the fact that I just got sports shit, and that's why I'm on social media, and that's all I want. And now it's half
Right.
Nazis, now it's half politics or whatever, and they can go, and you can kind of curate who you see and what you do,
Yeah.
more, because I mean, even on mine, where I have like 1,000, because I've been on the site for 20 fucking years almost. Like,
Right. Yeah.
I think I probably have like 3 or 4 thousand people blocked on Twitter, and I still
I mean,
continue.
those are rookie numbers. I have like at least twice that.
Yeah, I
But
mean,
that's because
I
I'm an
don't.
asshole.
If I blocked everybody that I really wanted to block, I wouldn't. Then Twitter wouldn't have a point, because I do need to see that
Yeah.
content.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
I'm the guy
but
who goes through and is like,
yeah,
"Oh, you liked that thing? Fuck off."
yeah, yeah. I mean, to be fair, I am the one that burns. I mean, like, I am the known bridge burner on Twitter, but it is one of those, like, I don't understand why, like, like how these. I understand why Musk says the things he does, be whatever, because he's a delusional
Right.
spaceman who, who wants to send other people to Mars and have them work in a slave colony. And
Right.
he has a cult that will happily do it. That's the kind of the most insane thing about it. But
Mhm.
is I don't understand these, like, contributing writers who supposedly know about technology. I'm sorry, Nancy Scola, writing this article, is a journalist
Mm.
based in Washington who examines the complicated intersections of technology and society. And it's just like writing was like,
Right.
why are Democrats wrong about this? And it's just fucking delusional. Where it's just like the site is, again, like somebody's pointed out that basically the decline in the platform is just trash ads, scammy replies, and porn bots. Which, like, I
Oh
have
yeah.
never, like, before he took over, never really, I barely ever saw any porn on the site. There'd be like one
Oh,
in a
for sure.
billion
Yeah.
posts. You'd be like, oh shit, and you report it and it's gone. Um,
Yeah.
and like the ads were usually Coca-Cola, I mean, like ads that you
Yeah.
see on
Yeah.
kind of anything. And now it's just all it's now all complete. It's not even like TikTok, which at least has, like, okay, there's a shit ton of ads. Oh my
Yeah.
God, and trash stuff. But I'm like, oh no, I've bought a bunch of stuff from the TikTok shop, and it's actually a
Right.
real deal,
Yeah.
and B,
Yeah.
like, shit, I actually like I mean, like, dear God, if I see that goddamn fucking tire inflator anymore, I might actually buy
Oh
it.
my God.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
but it's because I think I clicked on it once, and that's the dangerous thing. You never click on it once. But it's just like,
That's like uh something grain, original grain. It's like a watch company
mm,
that makes their watches out of sterling silver and reclaimed whiskey barrels.
oh God.
And I was like, that's kind of interesting. And so I clicked on it and I'm like, oh no, now that's my life.
Yeah, no, that's a big problem. Yeah, no. TikTok is its own. Anytime, like, because I'm like, somebody will post something. Anyway, this is a tangent about
Yeah.
TikTok, not related to this. We all love TikTok, and we love. I actually don't remember the name of the Chinese current leader. Shit. Anyway, I was going to make a joke about. Like, we are a
Yeah.
pro China podcast here. Please buy some ads on our thing. Anyway, but we don't sell ads. But if you'd like to sell ads, do anyway. But if you want to sell a tire inflator for $32, please give us a call. I'll happily do that ad read. Um, but like, there's always some
I
like
mean,
random.
honestly, at least it's a real product with a
Yes, yeah, at least it's
real
a physical
use
thing.
case.
It's also,
Not
it's not
like fucking
Trump's.
crypto.
Yeah, Trump's crypto card or whatever. Oh
Yeah,
my
yeah.
fucking God, that's a whole different episode we could do about, like, the articles by these type of assholes on Politico that are like,
Yeah.
is it Harris's refusal to embrace cryptocurrency that caused her to lose
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
election? I'm like, I'm sorry if it was, then I'm happy that she lost the election. I'm happy that she
Right.
lost the
Yeah.
election,
Yeah.
that she didn't embrace a scam. Like, is it is it Harris's is it Harris's lack of ability to embrace the anti-vax and pro brain fuel powder community that
Yeah.
on Alex Jones's network that lost her in the election? Yes, actually, it is. Yes, that's probably part of it. Yeah, but anyway, but
I mean, honestly, uh, just a standing ovation for the Onion who bought all of the brain pills and the dick pills.
hopefully they get it. Hopefully that the bankruptcy court. One thing, if nothing else, that comes out of the Alex Jones here, bankruptcy and everything like that, it exposes the complete and
My
utter
God.
failure of the bankruptcy courts of doing anything for, like, if I was going bankrupt, I would be paying. I would be fucked right now, especially if I was
Right.
saying all the things. I mean, like, Alex Jones has literally threatened the lives of these people that are doing the
Yeah.
bankruptcy hearings, and the judges and things like that, and they're still ruling in his favor and giving him continuances and whatever. And so,
Yeah.
yeah. I did love it, like down the not down the street, but because when I live in the middle of nowhere, or when I'm in upstate New York, and I'm in upstate New York right now, but like there's an
Yeah, yeah.
abandoned department store on Route 11 that has had for like the last, like, I think like 6 years, a probably 50-foot um, Infowars.com mural
Oh
that
my
somebody has
God.
written up, and I've taken photos of it. I've called the real estate. I've literally volunteered. I've been like, hey, I will happily paint it. I just need somebody to give me the okay so I don't get fucking arrested
Right,
while
yeah.
I'm trying to paint over this thing. And now I finally took a photo of it and I posted it, and I was just like, thank you, Ben Collins, for your guerrilla marketing team
Yeah.
at the Onion for painting on the random thing in upstate New York.
Nice.
But yeah. Um, but yeah, it's wild to go back to the actual story or whatever you're talking about.
Yeah, yeah.
It's wild to me that like there is this conversation about like that we have to, as liberals, left of center, whatever,
Right.
have to endure the um the hatred and the
Right.
vileness of the far right so that we can have our voices heard on these sites. I mean, like, look at
Yeah.
there's never been any conversation about why liberals aren't going to Parler and talking about that, why liberals aren't going
Yeah.
to social and aren't going to that. That conversation never happens, but for some reason, if liberals go, you know what, we're fucking done with this, we don't need this hatred. And obviously it
Yeah.
doesn't make a fucking bit of difference. Like, because we've stuck around on that site. I said for a long time, I'm sticking around on the site to before they did the kind of copyright takeover shit, where I was just like,
Right.
because I think that we need to, stand our ground to some extent on the major platform that
Yeah,
journalists
it's the
have a
whole thing of
conversation on.
like, I'm not gonna move out of the country because we lost. I'm gonna stay and fight.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and but now that site is very clearly just it. If if the CEO if the CEO is against you, and the CEO also is the guy literally that can fly around to the country and like rip up servers to like close them down and stuff like that he has this
Yeah.
level of
Yeah.
hands on. Like, Mark Zuckerberg is a very hands-on CEO when it comes to like a corporation the size of Meta.
Right.
But I don't believe that he's making decisions at the level
No,
of
not at
like
all. Yeah.
censoring. I do 100% believe if you're a major broadcast, if you're somebody like Stephen King, who has like
Yeah.
huge amount of traffic, huge amount of thing, he has interacted with you. He has directly said,
Yeah.
"Oh, I love your stuff, but your opinions are terrible and whatever." And so it's just like there is
Right.
no reason to believe that anything you do on the site is safe. I did a post on Bluesky that weirdly went viral because I didn't think it was that controversial. But I did a post and be like, now is the time to get all of your messaging onto Signal. And like I use
Right.
Signal, so like that was the thing. If you have other private,
Yeah.
there's a ton of other private messaging platforms that people use that are supposedly good. I don't know. I don't know them. I know Signal, and it
Right.
works for me. It's usable. It includes GIFs. You know, what I mean, like it has all the messaging.
Yeah.
But like, I have a group of journalists that we all cover the far right, and we made the decision like 2 weeks ago to move it off of Meta, off of just because it was convenient just to use messaging
Right.
and whatever,
WhatsApp or
and
whatever.
move it
Yeah.
over to and not WhatsApp either, like to move everything onto Signal because it was, it has
Right. Yeah.
some level of security, and whether how trustworthy it is, I don't know, but it ain't fucking Mark Zuckerberg, Mark Zuckerberg's platform, where like we have to realize that like
Right.
um after the whole Matt Taibbi bullshit where he testified in
Oh
front of
yeah.
Congress and Elon Musk gave him all this data, we have to realize that like all of our information that we post on Twitter is fair game. If he
Oh,
decides,
for sure. Yeah.
if he decides tomorrow, sorry, I'm enjoying the cattail, I'm like the very edge of it. The if you're watching video, there's Russ's cat is walking back and forth, and it's just the tail like curved.
Yeah. Doing her best to make sure
Yes,
I'm not paying attention to you.
it's
Yeah.
exactly. But you're like, Zach's going on a tangent again. You can just bet me. But it's the fact that like all of our messages could at any given time be just like not Zuckerberg. Musk could just be like, well, fuck you, post these things. There's no contract, there's no retro. I don't know what I could do if he posts all of my private messages where, I'm joking with
Right.
friends about whatever and like puts them out of context or whatever, he could do that. And it's just like, you have to get off this platform in that way. Don't give them anything that could be used otherwise. And weirdly, it's mainly controversial because like people are like, no, you should use this platform. No, you should use this platform. No, there's no internet site that's trustworthy. And I'm like, okay, great. What are we doing? Pigeons? I would love it if, but sadly, I'm not, 9, 10 months out of the year, I live in Virginia, and it would take a long time for me to say to Russ, hey, do you want to do a podcast? Be like,
right.
2 weeks later, be like, yeah, that sounds good. Or it'd be a month because it would have to go both ways. So.
That's true. Yeah.
Well, yeah.
I mean, it's the same thing up here where it's like, no, I'm ostensibly in New York, but really I'm in the sticks. Like,
yeah. I mean, it's just like it is what it is when it comes to it. I mean, like we all have to make these concessions on like what platform we trust a little bit like less or more or whatever. But again, like as somebody who asked to do a lot of private messaging, I talk to people about confidential things, and to make this more serious than his laughter, we're like, it is 100% time to get the hell off of these platforms. Anything that you do that's like private conversations or whatever, do not trust it with Musk. Do not trust it with Zuckerberg. Don't trust it. I wouldn't even trust private conversations with Bluesky. I mean, we got to remember that, sure. Like, because I mean, like I'm still trying to get a nailed idea of what their long-term plans when it comes to AI are, and like and the fact that like I really want a commitment that they're never going to sell our data without our permission to an AI or whatever. And I seemingly can't get that, but I have tons of defenders who are like, no, they've said they'll never do it. And I'm like, I want a contract. Like I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. I want a direct, clear, unambiguous
16 years ago when I signed up for Twitter, I never thought in a million years it would. But now what I posted from Occupy Wall Street is now being fed into the AI machine, and I'm losing my copyright. And I mean, never mind copyright and like money or whatever. Not that I'm making any money off of like what I posted, but it is like what it can be used later on for, and like what kind of lies and disinformation that it can be used for. That's what I don't trust about anything, and that's that's what you have to decide. I mean, it would be great if we could all go back to AOL Messenger. And
I mean, I would for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, I just want my old username, which was Muckin' with the G, as a fucking fantastic username. So
I had one of those family accounts where I had like so many fucking usernames. I remember I was a GG Warrior for Guy Gardner Warrior.
Yep.
And then I was Flashlight Phantom, which is a really obscure Springsteen reference, and then like a bunch of other random nonsense. But like, yeah, I honestly, like, I was talking to my wife the other day about the fact that like, okay, so we all made fun of the Matrix when they were like, oh no, 2000 is the height of human civilization.
Yeah.
It's like now you look back and you're like, oh my God, no, it kind of was.
Yeah.
I would pay good money to have like my AIM and IRC accounts back.
I just desperately, as somebody who works in journalism, somebody who does video and photo, whatever. I'm like, I would really like, even though like obviously who knows where the way my career could have gone if the internet didn't become what it's become, like whether or not I would have had to find something else to do when I started 20 years ago. But like I'd trade that for a moment to cut away. Like when I do a political interview podcast every once in a while about talking to journalists and authors, and the last question I always do to them is internet good or bad idea? And I'm like, nope, it's one. You can't have there's no conversation. It's just yes or no. And like obviously most of the people I talk to are like, well thought people, so like they kind of refused the
Yeah,
answer.
yeah,
But, and I'm like, okay, I got the
yeah, yeah.
no, but okay, we can have the conversation. We can have a 2 minute conversation about why you think it's no. But it's I every day I was just joking before. I was just like, because they're like getting all the responses from the like, hey, you should probably move your messaging off of Messenger and
Right.
Facebook and Twitter and everything like that, and move it on to something more secure. And I'm just getting all these, because of course Blue Sky also is still a lot more of computer geek people, which is
Right.
great
Yeah.
because it's useful and we need those people. Because when I ask some question about I don't know what the fuck to do about this thing, I get an answer there.
Yeah.
But it's everybody was just like, no, you got to use Tether, you got to use this thing, you got to use that thing, and I'm like, I'm not gonna fucking learn
Right.
how to code to be able to have a fucking chat with my friend Russ about Hudson Hawk.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sorry, it's never gonna fucking
Yeah.
happen. And then there's also the mix of other people who are like, well, if you're not talking about anything illegal, then why are you worrying? And I'm like, I don't want Matt Gaetz, the new head of FBI or whatever,
Yeah. Seriously.
to say, well, Zach has this horrible opinion about, whatever. I don't want him to pull that because he can
About
get it
Hudson
really
Hawk.
easily get
Yeah.
award.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I will go toe to toe with that motherfucker if he has a bad opinion about Hudson Hawk.
That's true. Yeah.
That'll be the thing that gets me in the gulag. Like Hudson Hawk, you like Bruce Will. I'll be swinging on a motherfucking star anyway, but oh,
Well
and
played,
you have to joke
clerks.
about your death, otherwise,
Yeah.
who
Yeah.
will?
It's true.
Anyway, do you have
It's
anything
funny. I
else?
was talking to my. This is not important to anybody but us, but I was
No.
talking to my brother-in-law the other day. He had shared with me some joke about how Santa's sleigh hit the towers on 9/11, and I was like, "Hey, back in December 2001, Zach and I were
Yeah,
drawing this thing where the,
yeah,
the sleigh crashed into the twin towers. It was like 2 in the morning on Christmas Eve, and we were at the Little Gem Diner in Syracuse, and the waitress came by and saw it, and we thought, oh no,
yeah,
this like 70-year-old woman is gonna bust us, and she was like, can I show that to the cook?
yeah, yeah. All funny, especially considering the owner at the time claimed that he was a former CIA agent, and I forget his
Oh
whole
yeah,
like
that's right.
thing.
I forgot about that.
And like I remember that I forget whether it was that same time period that he was like we had that conversation with him where he's like, yeah, I used to be CIA. Went through all like the ops that he was on and everything like that, and it's like,
Yeah.
okay, he probably but yeah, supposedly that is that at least at some point was hanging on the wall at Little Gem because they took it. And remember, they took it.
Yeah, yeah.
They took one version. I think we did two versions of it.
I think so,
And they
yeah.
took at least one of the versions of it and hung it up on the wall of Little Gem Diner, which is in Syracuse, New York. It was like
Yeah, yeah.
everybody who goes to Syracuse University or like lives in Syracuse, like Little Gem Diner is like, I'm trying to think of what the classic. It's the Carnegie Diner of New York or whatever.
No, what's the one, the something o'clock? It's under
Oh yeah. The
the New
one in
Yorker
not in
Hotel.
Times Square, but like in yeah.
Yeah, across from
Yes, Square Garden. Diagonal.
yes, thank you.
Yeah.
My brain was like, the Rangers had a homecoming.
Yes, everything must be a Bruce Springsteen reference. I mean,
Exactly. Otherwise, what's the point? Yeah.
yeah. What's the worth of living? I mean, as they say, it ain't no sin to be glad you're alive. So whatever. But
Mine isn't Bruce. It just says, keep believing in a better tomorrow.
shame, Russ. You don't
I
have
feel like we've gone way off the rails. Is there?
Yes, I was just trying to wrap up this. Do you have anything else to add to our Blue Sky?
I mean, again,
Answer?
the big thing is, and we talked about this, but like the biggest thing right now is that while Blue Sky is not as overtly commercial as the others,
Yeah.
it still manages to actually allow people to link off the site.
Yeah.
And to me, it's like that's huge for not just like journalism and like our audience, but also just like kind of everybody, because it's like when you
That's
go to
social
Twitter
media.
and it's like,
I mean, that was what social
huh?
media. That's what social media was originally supposed to be.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
You share the thing that you saw. I saw this cool thing somewhere else
yeah, exactly.
on the interwebs, and like that's to me, that's always been the thing because that's what Elon Musk like when he came into things. He's like, I want to keep everybody the conversation on the site or whatever, and I'm like, you're
Yeah,
missing the whole fucking goddamn point of social media,
right. Yeah,
which is
and again,
it's
like,
to show the cool thing you saw somewhere else.
and a big thing is like when you think about a lot of the recent controversies on like YouTube,
Mhm.
or where it's like, no, we're talking about like reaction content and lazy reposts and like
Yeah,
engagement bait and all this kind of stuff. It's like, no, you like there is a value to allowing people to click off to the original, because like if you're just like having the third generation copy on your platform, like it might keep people engaging, but the person who reposts it is probably doing it just to make a couple extra bucks. They
yeah,
probably don't actually have any insight to share.
yeah, yeah.
And so it's one of those things. Sorry?
I mean, that's the big thing to me. That's why TikTok is the one site that is going through the roof when it comes to traffic and why everybody loves it
Right.
is because you're able to download. I mean, I'm not a huge fan on the like download like my
Yeah.
videos on it thing, but whatever. But you're able to download it and then re-upload it and on your site and like kind of post it.
Right.
But it's part of to me that's part of like okay, so TikTok, that's part of the deal. Like when you post and when you do something on TikTok, it don't do any content that you don't want somebody to download. Although there is obviously there's
Right.
a there's a little button that you can click that says don't allow this download.
Yeah.
But it will knock your potential like sharing or whatever happens. But it does
Right.
also keep it does also when it downloads it, I believe it brands your content in a way. So I mean like it does actually do a really good job, even if it is owned by the evil communist Chinese. I don't really give a shit.
Right. Yeah.
But which again, like I like, oh, they're gonna steal all my data. Oh, like you know what I mean, like Mark Zuckerberg is, who's gonna sell
Yeah.
it to
Exactly.
an Israeli defense firm, who's gonna sell it to the Saudis, who's gonna do whatever. I'm like, I don't fucking care. Like the Chinese aren't coming after me. Like I do
Yeah.
believe that the American government might come after me, and like China is not gonna sell my data from TikTok anyway, but it doesn't matter. But
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
it is it's something that we're like, are you fucking like do you really think that like TikTok is any better than Facebook or Twitter? Like, are you fucking kidding me?
Right. Yeah. For
Like
sure.
Twitter has proven that they will just share random data from the site that they can do to in front of Congress. I mean, like, okay. But
Huh.
it is a like I mean to me that's like I haven't done a lot on TikTok because anytime I talk about anything political, it ends up getting knocked because I talk about voter suppression and things like that. And
Right.
so if you use it, like I've had, censored. Same thing like I used to have on YouTube when I cover the far right, like
Yeah.
everything I had so many things I've had to argue on YouTube that whatever. But I mean, at least on the other hand, at least on these sites, you can actually even have that conversation and have it shared and
Right.
get content.
That's
Because
huge. Yeah.
On Instagram or on Threads or even on Facebook,
Right.
they have specifically said that they are going to be downplaying news, which I'm sorry,
Exactly.
that's the
Right.
only reason I'm on social media is so that I can. It may not just be political news; it may be entertainment news, it may be in lesser
Right.
extent sports news. But it's some sort of news. If I want to talk to my friends, I'm going to talk to my fucking friends. I'm not going to see,
Yeah.
like my friends post do not. I mean, thankfully, like most of my friends don't. You don't really post a lot like of family stuff on social media. You're not like that type of person.
Yeah.
Most of my other friends aren't that same person, so I don't have to go to their Facebook or Instagram page.
Yeah. I mean, if I
Have
was going to share something about my family, I would share it with you instead
Yeah,
of
yeah.
like,
Something that you also
yeah.
something specifically that you want to see or whatever. Like you wouldn't like post it and then tag me or whatever. And most of my
Right.
close friends are that same way. And same thing with all my farther out friends that are not like you or a handful of other friends but like my work friends that like they'll share something with me or or I'll hear about it through the the grapevine that they're coming out with the
Right.
book or whatever. I usually find it out before they post it on social media, and I don't know. It's just it shows that like again that Musk doesn't give a shit, that like most of these other platforms don't give too much of a shit about
Right.
uh actual content. You know, I mean uh
Right.
actual like traffic and whatever they want to do that. Oh, sorry. Russ shared a photo of his puppy. So, um,
Two, one being awful and the other being cute.
oh, I wish
I
that
tried to take a picture of her and she just attacked the camera and I
oh,
was like,
dog. Yeah,
okay.
yeah. No. Bowden, I would say he's definitely a photo photographer's dog. He sees the camera and he's like, sits and is like, okay,
Yeah.
take the fucking photo. And then the moment I take the photo and put the camera down, he's like, okay, we can have fun again. And so like
Yeah.
my border collie before that was the same way, where it's like every photo I have of her is like, oh, like the
Mhm.
13-year-old that's like, oh dad, okay, take the fucking photo and like we can just go on the Disney ride. Like in every
Uh,
photo is like exhausted about like photo, like my previous like my border, I think Bowden does it, my Labradoodle that I have now. If I
mhm.
Because obviously I bring my camera anytime we go out for walks or whatever,
Right. Yeah.
and so like just see the camera and they're like just kind of had this like, oh, because I'm gonna have to pose. I'm not gonna play fetch all the time. He's not gonna have his focus. And I'm like, I really do have just like a toddler who is like exhausted. Oh, they brought their work laptop to the cafe. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
anyway, we should let's wrap up all these with
Yeah.
what have you watched recently for fun? Anything?
Today we, my son and I watch Ernest Saves Christmas, which is like the seventh time I've watched it recently because I'm doing an Ernest thing. But I've been working through that series. One of the things I told you about this, but I haven't said
Yeah,
this on a show. Like one of the things that's wild is like I haven't watched Ghost to Camp, which is like the most popular by a wide margin.
yeah.
But I've watched Ernest Goes to Jail, Ernest Goes to the Army, Saves Christmas, Scared Stupid, and at least one or two others. And like, holy cow, Ernest Scared Stupid, which I do not remember liking as a kid, is a real film. Like, I watch Saves Christmas and I'm like, oh, this is cute, this is kind of fun, but like, it's not a real movie. There's no plot here
Yeah,
to speak of.
yeah.
And it's just like it's super interesting to look at it and be like, oh my god, there's a couple of these movies that actually like are movies.
Yeah, yeah, especially considering like my memory of I love them. I loved Ernest films. I had the
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
VHSs.
No, same here.
and
Yeah,
but like my memory of like these were not real films. They were kind of like almost films in the way that like I was just we oh my God, I don't have it near me, so I can't do it. My aunt gave me do you remember there was like a weird I'm trying to figure out how old it was, but there was a weird time period. Do you remember the California Raisins films?
oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah. So at the same time those films came out, which is a wild thing that at some point we should do a whole thing on, because like I saw that in
for sure.
theaters.
Yeah.
Um, but there was a Mark Twain film that was all claymation, and I think it was done by the same studio. And like to the
Yeah.
point that I'm like kind of become more, because some people on social media have posted being like, was this a fever dream or did this actually
Uh-huh.
happen? And they have a
Right.
screenshot, and I was like, no, I saw it in theaters. Me and my aunt were the only two people in the theater.
Uh-huh.
Like so,
Like when I went to see Steel.
yeah, yeah. But it's just like, well, my aunt gave me for actually for my birthday, because I haven't been home in
Nice.
months. She gave me the Mark Twain disc, which is the claymation Mark Twain history, kind of like of his writing and going through his,
Right.
it's like whatever. But like that was another one that I'm like, I can't find any example. Usually these things are shared on social media or
Yeah.
on YouTube or whatever. And I'm like, I haven't been able to, I'm like, was this just a fucking, like, was it part of the California Raisins? Like, did the California Raisins go and meet Mark
Huh.
Twain? And I thought that was a thing. And no, it's not. It was a completely separate thing. But
That would
like
have been great, to be
she gave me
fair.
the disc of it, so we're gonna actually have to definitely watch that because
For sure.
we're both Mark Twain fans, but also like that is like the most nostalgia kind of like randomness possible.
Yeah.
And also the thankfulness of physical media that saves this type of stuff because I couldn't find any example of it
Yeah.
before. But it is one of those completely wild fucking things. Um,
The other
yeah.
the other recent thing I watched Super Slash Man, the Chris Reeve documentary.
Okay.
Very, very good. Really well executed. Incredibly depressing. Um,
Yeah.
One of the things you might not know about Chris Reeve is that, there's the Chris and Dana Reeve Foundation.
Yeah.
Dana being his wife. Do you know what happened to Dana?
No.
Like 8 months after Chris died, she got breast cancer and died. It's like she spent the last 10 years of her life taking care of her paraplegic husband and then immediately died of cancer.
Oh God.
And like their kids are some of the most like prevalent presences in the documentary. And like Will, who is their like the kid of Chris and Dana, because he had two from his previous marriage, and then there's the third one. His third one is like the most interviewed person, and he's like, "Yeah, my life was like hell from like 8 to 17 because like all I did was live my
Yeah.
parents dying slowly." It's like, oh my god, kid. Um, but like a really well done movie. Like structurally, I like it a lot. It opens on not opens on his injury, but it jumps the injury really quick, and it uses this framing device where Chris had like his life flash before his eyes,
Yeah.
and so like you get to go back and forth through like the past, present, future, uh, and it allows you to kind of mess with the structure of the movie in a way that I feel like most biopics do not.
Yeah.
Really well done. Like I said, incredibly heart wrenching. And it's one of those things where I'm like, I don't know. Like, I would recommend it to anybody I know who likes documentaries and who's interested in this kind of. But I don't know that I could recommend it to a stranger because it's like so fucking bleak.
Yeah.
Um, I've also been rewatching Kenneth Branagh's Poirot movies.
What movies?
Poirot.
Oh, Pro movies. Okay. 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 Yeah.
Yeah, which honestly, like my favorite franchise of the last like 5 6 years. Those are so much fun. Um,
What did I watched recently that you should? I binged. Oh my God, I binged so many. Like, um, there's the second season of uh, The Diplomat on
oh, nice.
Netflix, which was as good as the first, which I was very happy with. And man, that's just it's kind of like the way I describe it mostly is like foreign like it's the foreign policy West Wing, except
Yeah,
without the like heartwarming moments of like the kind of
mm.
like liberal like, oh, if only this is the way we could do things. No,
Yeah,
they
yeah,
fuck up. There's like bullshit, there's set, there's like, somebody's fucking somebody, whatever, and like,
yeah.
and so it's messy, but it's like it's well written. There's like kind of like not a lot of walk and talks, kind of, whatever, but there's a lot of like intrigue. It's so fucking
Right.
good. It's the first season I think I've rewatched twice, 2 or 3 times now. Then the other one I also like meant to just watch one episode and just be like, okay, was The Madness, on again on Netflix. And I did not expect that to be a show that I watched. I stayed up till 4:30 in the morning watching every single episode because it's a limited series thing.
Right.
And holy shit, that was good. It's a
What's that one
little
about?
um basically, I mean, he actually in the show, he's this a black CNN political commentator. Uh, I don't want to insult the character by comparing him to Van Jones because Van Jones is
Uh-huh.
it. But kind of like a Van Jones, had some connections to like kind of Black Lives Matter kind of world. Like very clearly, that's like the back history that they don't get into is that oh they hired him for
Right.
to talk about that. His father was a black activist that got killed or killed himself. I'm trying to remember which one it was, but like killed.
Hmm.
That's the backstory. And so he goes, he is about to potentially get a TV show, like a full-time show on CNN. And weirdly, it's very specifically CNN, which was a thing that like it wasn't like
Interesting.
CNN, whatever made up network. It's very specifically CNN.
Was it on HBO?
No,
I'm not
it's on Netflix. And so which,
weird.
I mean like shit gets sold. I don't know what the back
Right, right,
the thing whatever. But he goes to a cabin to write a book or whatever and meets a guy next door and that guy gets killed. And so he now he's a black guy, white next door neighbor in the Poconos cabin, everything. And he basically has to prove his
right.
innocence because the Poconos cops are like, whatever, I don't want
Yeah,
to get into it, but basically, there's a lot of surprises. If you know who I am, there's a lot of intrigue in my world built into this, which they did pretty well. Like they didn't take it too far, but I'm like, oh, I kind of know
right.
what the groups are that they might talk about. So there's a little, fuck it, there's a little like Nazi, some people
Yeah,
potentially in there, and like whether or not he's set up or whether it's got kind of like a little bit of a fugitive vibe to it in that he eventually is not on he's never really on the run like the way that he is,
right,
but he's like not, whatever. He's a well-off, well-dressed black guy, so it's the mix of he's still rich, but he's still black.
right.
And so like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and they play that really well. Like everything about the show is just really done well, but it's not very serious.
Right.
It's definitely a fun show to watch because there's some like ridiculous kind of moments that it's not like I don't know, it's not like an A24 film or like not like a very
Yeah,
serious, it's not like the HBO like very serious, network,
right.
their miniseries. This is still
The
very much a Netflix
Showtime. Yeah,
show.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. This is fun. Like it's still fun. I mean, like I was a little more, a little bit more interested in certain things than I was like, oh no, I'd like to show the tattoos a little bit more on this corpse. And I like so and I'm like, okay, they kind of got that right. Okay, I see where they're going with that. I see they did their research. Well done. But yeah, no, that was the last thing I kind of watched, and I think I may actually rewatch it again because
Nice.
it was very good. But yeah.
Right. Any final thoughts before you go to sleep?
Um I think that I'd love for everybody like this weekend, we're both gonna travel to Rochester, New York,
That's
assuming
true.
weather
Yeah.
allows us, because there's a shit ton of winter storms.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
supposed to get where I am like potentially a foot of snow tomorrow. But later in the week, the movie Werewolves, with
Yeah.
Frank Grillo, and holy shit, check out that fucking trailer. It is exactly our podcast kind of content.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so we're gonna drive like an hour and a half, 2 hours. For me, it's gonna be 2.5 hours, but out to Rochester to see it because for some reason it's not being shown. I mean, mind you, Syracuse, New York area only has two theaters within a 45
Yeah.
minute drive of it, which is insane to me. Um, but so we're gonna go see that. So if you check out that trailer, so that when we do our drive and talk, because we're gonna have a long we're gonna have a long
Ah,
drive back to
right.
talk about it.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so we're gonna see it late at night.
That
So
is our most prolific new release wall in about 3 years.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Because we have it's at least an hour and a half drive back, and we're probably
Mhm.
going to see the like 10-15 showings. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, no, if I wish we had a better, like, unfortunately, like, since we're off Twitter, there's not really a good like live platform, because otherwise I would say we should start doing these kind of things like live as we drive
Right. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
take people. But anyway, we'll be doing one of our drive and talks, and then gonna try to figure out some lighting situations so we can actually see ourselves, as opposed to
Yeah.
usually it's
Yeah.
like, backlit. Because I have windows tinted in my car now, so we won't
And
even.
then we can use like a voice changer and be like, I really like this movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can do my Alex Jones. Sorry, this is the absolute last thing that I'll bring up. I was hanging out with my friends, and the friend has down in South Carolina. My friend has a 6-year-old.
Yeah.
You know, I'm saying for the audience, I know you do. I know you
Right, right, right.
know who I'm talking about. And for
Yeah.
some reason or other, the kid wasn't. It was kind of basically, wasn't eating, and for some reason, I decided to start doing a voice. And the voice that I randomly picked was Javi Firestein. From
I
Independence
love it.
Day and whatever.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And like it was, if you're an uncle, if you have, if you have your kids that you interact with, I don't know how to say this without
Right.
sounding weird. The moment that they, especially at 6 years old, they something that they find annoying, you gotta beat that with a dead horse. You
Oh,
have to just
for
keep
sure.
going. So I did a Harvey
Yeah.
Firestein, which like
I have a
nobody,
son who's
like,
14
yeah.
and I still do that because like uh my son, he's on the autism spectrum. He likes to like control the conversation.
Yeah.
So every now and again I'll say something and he'll be like, "Stop!" And it's like what I was saying was reasonable. It does not justify that. And so when he says stop, I'll say hammer time.
Yeah.
He does not like that.
Yeah.
Uh,
No. I just, the only thing that kept me going was this combination of her being so annoyed about it, and also the combo of the fact that like my friend's husband was like losing his shit laughing about it. And
yeah, yeah.
so like, and I don't know if he knew who Harvey Firestein, whatever. And I'm just
Right.
like, who is like hesitant. Google search. I can't do the voice on call anymore. Like Harvey Feist. I can't do it right. I'm gonna have to
No,
listen to him
not at
again
all.
to do
Yeah,
it.
I
But
wouldn't even try.
I was
Yeah.
doing. I can do a fantastic Harvey Firestone voice as long as I get it going. There's not a lot of voices I can do fantastic, but that is one that is like
Yeah,
dead
yeah.
on. It's pretty easy to do as long as you have the right like kind of low register. But
Right.
it was just, I did it long enough that like by the end of the night, my voice box was destroyed. The
Oh, I
next day,
bet.
I could
Yeah.
barely talk, and it was just like worth it, fucking goddamn worth it. And then I was like, wait a minute, like, what's the movie that she's gonna see that she's gonna be like in 2 years? Because obviously he doesn't do, like, I guess he does do some like kids animation stuff, but I was like,
Yeah, yeah.
she's gonna watch Mrs. Doubtfire because he's in Mrs. Doubtfire, and
Yeah.
be like, where do I recognize that voice? And like, long game, worth it. Like that is
Yeah,
the
yeah.
key to, as somebody who has no kids of my own, but I have like your kids, I have my friends, my other friends'
Yeah,
kids,
yeah.
I have my sisters, and so like it's all about the long game when you're when you're like, you got like young kids around you. It's like you got to just like implant that thing that they're gonna be like, what the fuck? Why do I know?
Oh,
What?
yeah. It's funny. I had a conversation the other day. So my youngest, who
Yeah.
is 9,
Yeah.
uh, she was the first one of my kids to notice that every time somebody says the number 37 in conversation, I'll go, in a row? And so Charlotte started doing that. And yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
And so, like, eventually she's like, "Where'd that come from?" And I'm like, "Well, it comes from one of my favorite movies. It's this
Good
movie called
question. Where did
Clerks,
it
but
come
like, you can't watch it because like it's not
from?
appropriate for kids your age."
Yeah.
And so she's like, "But now I've trained my brain to respond to 37 with the words in a row. Will I get in trouble in school?" And I'm like, "No, probably not. I don't think anybody else is gonna remember what that is."
You're gonna have
Unless,
this one teacher that is like a Kevin Smith fan and be like, what the
yeah.
what is 21 plus
That's gonna be
16?
your sister. Like,
I know. Well, no, she wouldn't know. She's never watched Clerks. No, she would
yeah, yeah,
never have. No, no. My sister who teaches first grade?
kindergarten.
Kindergarten. Yeah.
Yeah, because she's
Who
Dakota's teaching assistant.
Yeah. She She's very much an innocent. She's very much an innocent one when it comes to film and cinema.
Yeah.
She still doesn't forgive me for showing her Iron Giant, who
Ha,
that crushed me for 2 years. Which, like, fair,
amazing.
that film does like destroy
For
your
sure. Yeah, yeah.
soul. But yeah, no, I
Uh,
can't imagine her watching Clerks. You could
oh,
watch.
hey, here's the thing. This is relevant to absolutely no one listening, but it's relevant to you.
I mean, who's listening
Um,
at this point? But yeah,
do you remember on Halloween, I sent you a picture of your sister, and I was like, I have no idea what she's supposed to be, but she's right there.
yeah,
Um, she was, God, Richard Kind from Inside Out.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I
that
know
thing,
what you
the
mean.
elephant thing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
That's what she was.
yeah, yeah.
I found that out later, and I was like,
Group thing.
oh, okay, I kind of see it. Yeah,
I think it was a group thing.
yeah,
Like,
it was. Yeah,
or
yeah.
something like that. Yeah, yeah,
I was just like, oh, yeah, I see that ish. um, but yeah. Anyway, my daughter loves. It's funny because I texted Kevin the other day. I was like, one of these days when my daughter gets old enough to actually watch Clerks,
yeah,
I'm gonna have to like buy a cameo or something and have
yeah,
you talk to her about this.
yeah.
And he's like, no, you don't have to buy anything. I'll do it. Like, what's her name? And I'm like, dude, she's 9. Like,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
was like,
no, no.
she hasn't seen the film yet.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, no, no. I saw it when I was 16, and I think I was too young. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
like, yeah, no, I remember distinctly. That's one of those funny things where it's like when it comes to streaming and everything like that, I really, it'd be interesting. I don't know how the fuck two old guys like us would ever be able to have these conversations, but it'd be interesting to talk to I guess Zennials and like kind of try to figure out like how do you watch, like what is it like? Is it because like, you know, not to go straight to porn, but like and
Right.
that's like kind of the equivalent. Like, oh my God, like when never mind the slowness of the internet and like I remember like downloading an image
Yeah.
of something and then you get halfway through the image and be like, oh, this is not whatever it's, or and
Yeah, yeah.
then the closest thing to porn a lot of us would get would be like the like Cinemax at 2 o'clock in the morning,
Yeah.
and it was like that
Like
terrible
Gillian
bands,
Anderson with her like black, her like
or it was just
cat
the
suit.
like the
Yeah.
blurred, be like, oh
Yeah.
my God, that was a boob, like type of thing. But like now it's like, I mean, so I remember um, I think probably I would assume I rented Clerks. I don't know where else I would have done it at
Chimneys.
Chimneys. And thankfully, the good people at Chimneys allowed me because I was a prolific renter to basically there was never
Hmm.
any like yeah okay so R-rated
Yeah,
film
yeah.
whatever I was was good and so I got Clerks and I remember I rented a couple things and I was up at my aunt's house where I am right now and
Yeah.
my grandmother was alive at the time too, so it was like my grandmother and my aunt were upstairs, like
Right.
upstairs. And I remember putting in Clerks like after watching whatever I watched and like lowering the volume and like because the TV
Yeah.
like we're downstairs, but like it's a straight shot upstairs, audio wise, and like watching it and being like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And I think I rented Kids that same night too, so
Oh
I
my
think I actually
God.
watched Kids
Yeah,
and
that
Clerks
tracks. Yeah.
the same night and being like, Kids was like, holy what? Like, cause they're like, because it's like they're kind of like casually talking about having sex and having AIDS, and I had done
Mm.
as I watched all the AIDS documentaries that came out in the 90s. I
Mm.
was, very much because we used to go to Cape Cod, so it was like very much in
Yeah, yeah.
Provincetown, which is a big LGBT community. So like it was very prominent in my mind. And so it was like, oh my God, you're and like so it's still weird like years and years and years later like meeting Kevin Smith and then B like do like Rosario Dawson did the voiceover for my
Oh
film,
yeah.
my last documentary, and it's like that one fucking night when I was like 15 or 16 years old. Like
Yeah. Yeah. It's like
I love it. I love it. It was a groundbreaking night for my for my growing
God.
up.
I wish I could remember what there was at least one of those nights where me, you, Muncie, and Jim it was before we were at the trailer park. We
Yeah.
stayed in your like basement one
Yeah.
one day.
Yeah.
It's like I know we watched at least a couple movies on beta. I'm like, I wish I remember what we watched that night because I'm sure whatever it was, we were not supposed to be watching that.
The funniest one was in middle school with it was Eugene's birthday, and
Yeah,
it was a mutual friend of ours that like he
yeah.
was my like best friend in
The
middle
guy
school.
who introduced me to Phil Oakes.
There
So
you go. Oh, really? Oh shit.
yeah.
I thought I did actually. That's weird.
No, Eugene gave me a right after 9/11. He gave me a mixed disc, and I just remember, oh god, the one where Phil sings about it's not a good song. The one where he sings about kissing the ground after landing his airplane.
Oh, I don't know that one offhand.
It was something off of the Phil Oakes the early years where it was like half of it was just his like Newport 65 set.
Yeah.
Um, anyway, you were saying
Oh, it's funny. We're talking about, the like we had a sleepover in middle school for his birthday, and we're at
yeah,
his parents' house, which his parents are like both professors, like one at
yeah, yeah.
SU or something like that. And so like very like it was a very like dignified house, and somebody I don't know who it was, somebody brought a VHS of there was like a Cinemax kind of like softcore kind of thing of somebody from Full House. I think one of the Camerons did some soft, like some like
Yeah.
Cinemax, like no sex, no
Right, yeah, yeah,
whatever, but it was like whatever. And we watched it. I just remember being like such the most like Catholic and like
yeah.
thing. I think I might have actually like left the room or something because I just didn't want to get in trouble. Like that was the biggest thing. Like I just never did. And so like that was still like and I'm pretty sure it's Kirk Cameron's um sister did
Candace.
that, and then she kind of found Jesus kind of thing. I could be wrong. But it's also funny because Kirk Cameron's sister also married somebody who went to my church.
Huh.
And so I remember when something at the Holy Cross, the church, whatever,
Yeah.
her and Kirk Cameron were sitting two rows in front of me. So, and now Kirk Cameron is Kirk Cameron. So, but anyway, but it's a
Yeah,
very
yeah, yeah.
weird small world of physical media.
It's funny. My favorite, or not my favorite, but my most notable similar crowd scene thing. When I went to see the screener, not the screener, like the critic screening of Creed
Yeah,
in Philly. I remember either one or two rows in front of me was Stallone and the mayor of Philly.
nice.
And it was like they were sitting together and shooting the shit and not paying any attention to the movie.
Yeah, yeah,
But it's like I'm watching this movie in Philly, like with a bunch of guys from the gym. Like there was a dude who, like some old guy who was like the cut man for every boxer ever to come out of that gym who had a
yeah,
cameo in the movie, who like introduced the film. And it's like such a weird, cool little experience where you're like, oh yeah. And I remember prior to doing that, or no, after doing that screening, um, I did my interview with Kugler,
yeah,
and I was like supposed to get on a plane at 5. So my interview was at like 2:15 or whatever. And my flight got delayed because of weather. And so like I let a guy from blackfilm.com jump me in line and be like, "Okay, yeah, I'm stuck here anyway. Go do the
yeah,
thing." And then like because I gave up my slot, everybody else did their slots and I ended up getting Ryan at dinner at the bar.
yeah,
And I remember sitting down with him at the bar and him going like cuz at that point Black Panther was rumored but was not official yet.
yeah,
And so I remember sitting down and he was like, "I can't talk to you about anything except for Creed."
yeah,
And I just like, "Yeah, I don't I hope you do Black Panther. I would love to see you do Black Panther. I don't this I don't give a shit.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
I want to talk to you about a fucking Rocky spinoff.
Yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah.
uh,
No. Yeah, I mean, when you're the journalist from comicbook.com, that's always the
oh, for sure. That's exactly. I can't imagine he told anybody. And it's funny because like that was a weird day. I remember I talked to. I had to do a phone interview with the girl who played Kimio Hoshi on The Flash. I don't remember her name, but like she was Dr. Light. She was Grant's love interest for like 6 episodes or something. And I was doing that in between my other interviews, and I remember like I met with Aaron Covington, who is the co-screenwriter, and he also worked on Into the Spider-Verse, and he had like a Superman shirt on, so we immediately became simpatico. And
Yeah.
then like I did an interview with Tessa, and I was like, I've been a fan of yours since, and she cut me off, and she's like, Veronica Mars. And I was like, yeah, how'd you know? And she's like, she didn't say the words, but she was basically like, you're a fat middle-aged guy. Of course it's fucking Veronica. Like, I can't remember what she said, but she basically was like, no, I can tell just by looking at you. Like,
Yeah.
you like Veronica Mars. I always joke, actually, or not joke, I actually say, like, more than any other celebrity I've ever met or encountered, Tessa Thompson just owns a room. I remember like being in the crowd. They did the press conference before we did our one-on-ones. They did a press conference at this gym where they'd shot a bunch of the scenes, and so Sly was there, and Kirshner, one of the producers going all the way back to 1976, was there. Jordan was there, and Tessa, and at least one other person. And I just remember like Tessa Thompson was one of those people who's like, she gets the assignment. We were in a press conference. There was like 60 reporters, and she was in this gym. And I remember like making meaningful eye contact where you're like, oh no, if I didn't understand that she's a fucking pro, like if I was like a 22-year-old, I would think Tessa was making eyes at me.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
she's just like that good at handling a room.
Yeah.
Where it's like, oh no, like every single time you make like any kind of eye contact, it's like, oh no, she owns the room.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, no. Rosario Dawson has that same kind of vibe.
Yes,
Like
absolutely, yeah.
interviewed her. And again, like she's somebody who like I technically have worked with like no more than interviewed. And it's just like, oh no, I know she's just professional and she knows she answers the question, she knows what she's talking
Right, exactly.
Yeah,
like
she's great. But yeah. As we talk, two old white dudes talking about anyway. But
yeah. We are way off track, but any final thoughts before we
no. We'll talk about I actually have you watched the franchise at all on HBO?
Not yet, no.
You're gonna have to check out an episode of it. Do you know what the show is?
Yeah.
On HBO. Like I started watching it, and it's one of those shows which, like, it's Anucci, guy did Veep and Death of Stalin and In the Loop, and a lot of his stuff is like sometimes difficult to watch, but like kind of worth it. And this is one of those, like, especially like I obviously haven't been on a set a lot, but like been on a set enough, and also like done production work myself, where it's like it's vaguely stressful to watch it. But like the dialogue and kind of the like knowing working in like at least to the tiny extent that I have like in the entertainment industry,
right?
Especially during the big like I mean like we both like the arc of from Iron Man to where we are now is basically to some extent kind of
yeah.
Well, no, it's the career. It's like obviously like you started doing this way before Iron Man, but like the solid comicbook.com and the career is like during that time period, and it's fascinating to watch it because it's about like kind of not about an Iron Man film, but it's about like I don't even know about Ant-Man.
That's right. Yeah, no, I remember. Yeah. Now that you say that, yeah, it's like a.
It's not the big. They say they're a tentpole film. Oh
yeah.
But like, there's a line that's actually really good. Like that's really telling me it's like they're a tentpole film of the franchise, and then somebody says, well, there's many poles in a tent, and or something like that. And so they're like, it's not because they're in competition with like kind of the Avengers film that's happening
Right.
on a different studio location. And so like it's and Richard Grant's in it, and like there's a lot of really great actors, like a whole bunch
Yeah.
of people that you're like, I recognize that guy. And or that woman.
Yeah, Daniel
And
Brühl is in it, which is
yeah,
funny because he was an Avengers villain for like 2 movies.
yeah. Well, I mean, Richard Grant is like for me is the best because he's the theater actor that doesn't want to fucking be there, and it's just like
Yeah,
I
yeah.
fucking like
By Granthar's Hammer.
yeah, he's such a motherfucking asshole in this film, or in this show, and it just keeps going.
Mm,
It's just like, and
I
so
love it.
like we should really watch a couple episodes or something like that and kind of
Oh
dig.
yeah, for sure.
It's like right up our alley. But
Maybe
it's
at some point when it stops snowing, you and I can
yeah,
get together during the day now that I don't have any work.
yeah, yeah, same. So yeah, but yeah, it's definitely worth watching. It's just
Yeah.
it's a little bit more of a tough watch than you'd kind of think it might be, just because it's
I remember seeing like I don't even think it was ads. I think it was just PR for it. But I remember seeing something and being like, that sounds exactly like a thing I would love.
yeah, no,
Um,
I definitely think you would love it if you can kind of separate from the industry kind of itself and just be like, because mocking the kind of like the Marvel thing,
right.
but it's not in a condescending way like a lot of like shows might. It's definitely like, no, this is a lot of people's jobs. It's a lot of it. It's an industry. It's a
Yeah.
business. We accept that, and then we're kind of rolling from there. And it's
Yeah.
also Inucci who like can write dialogue like
Yeah.
his fucking business. So
Absolutely.
he can make the death of Stalin be like a riveting 2 hour long film. So like
So here's a
like
fun thing, man. I know I've told you this, but like my son is fascinated by like celebrity deaths,
yeah.
and he keeps like telling me about all these things, and so I keep telling him like we need to watch Death of Stalin. um,
You should
I
watch.
don't know
Actually,
that
I don't think he's old enough to. I don't know. I don't know if he's old enough. Wonder Boys, because the Tobey Maguire character makes the
I
OJ Miller.
actually, it's funny. I showed a clip of that to my wife the other day, and she
Yeah.
was like, "Oh my god!"
Yeah,
Because
because like
Daniel will he'll like go to my in-laws and just start a conversation where
yeah.
he's like, "Did you know that the guy from The Wizard of Oz died on this day in 1921 or
I love it.
1981?"
No, I love having a conversation with him about it. It's so that the last time I'm trying to remember what we were talking about the last time that he was whatever his like most recent like thing that he
Yeah,
learned, and he was like in detail. It's like it's insane like the detail that he's able to do. But it's like
I mean,
I know
honestly, one of his things is Ernest. Like because he loves Toy Story so much, he
yeah
loves Jim Varney.
yeah
And so he'll tell me all this stuff about Ernest, and I'm like, when they made the comic, I was like, this is why I talk to them,
yeah
because my son is obsessed with Ernest and all the like details around
yeah.
his death. And it's like, okay, well, I'll do this interview, I'll do this like companion piece where I can show Daniel like, hey, that's Jim Varney's cousin talked to me for an hour.
Yeah. Like just doing it. You got to give him something so you can give him a co-writing credit or something like that.
Exactly,
So,
yeah.
but no, I can't wait to he gets old enough to give him Hollywood Babylon. That like the
Yeah,
Risco
yeah.
book or whatever that was banned for a long time. Because I wonder is I used to
Yeah, I
have a
thought you meant
copy
the
of it.
Kevin Smith Ralph Garman podcast.
No, 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 no. The OG book of like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Hollywood, deaths and stuff like that. Because there's a lot in there that like no.
As opposed to the Devil's Candy, where uh, God, what's her name from Legion and Pitch Perfect? Aubrey Plaza.
Okay, yeah.
Did you see Aubrey Plaza the other day? Was at a WNBA game and she got caught on the camera reading the Devil's Candy.
Yes, yeah. I saw that. Yeah. That seems to be a bit of hers is that she shows up
Yeah,
because she did a different book a couple weeks ago. I think it's something.
yeah,
So which yeah. Now that's got to be the product placement that we got to get her to read, get her to have your
exactly.
Jersey
Yeah,
book.
yeah. And then we'll just have a little subliminal track that says it's jerkin.
Yeah. No, she actually would be perfect for. She would take over. She would be perfect for a sequel. Oh my God.
For sure, she could totally do the Parker Posey role.
Yeah. Shit, what was Parker Posey? Anyway, it is. We should wrap
Very
this
late.
up.
Yeah.
So yeah. So
All right. Thank you, everybody, for listening to us talk about absolute nonsense for 40 minutes and Blue Sky for an hour before that. Be here by noon on the 5th day for more Emerald City video, and always remember to rewind your cassettes.